Hello and welcome to Healing the Shaman's Way. I'm your host, Dr. Norman Wilson. I am a shaman. I do not claim to be a Native American. In my last talk, I was talking about spirituality. And I mentioned that there was a lack of provision, I felt, in individual contentment in organized religions. That was a pretty heavy charge. I chastised the hippie movement for being ego-based and flat out stated that spirituality is a personal experience, not a group thing. I also said that the ultimate secret of secrets is to love yourself. So if you can't be open to a spiritual experience. The potential of spiritual contentment. I also said spirituality involves a connecting to and realizing that we are a part of the creation, we're part of the natural world, we're part of the cosmos. So what are the clues that you might be a spiritual person? Well, do you enjoy watching a sunset or a sunrise? Do you enjoy looking out at the evening stars, winking back at them? Are your thoughts generally happy? If so, you probably are spiritual. Do you pitch in and help when someone is in need? Do you have a sense of serenity? Do you get peace with yourself? If so, you're likely to be a spiritual person. Do you have a respect for all life? Human and animal and plant. Do you recognize the spirituality in others? And finally, do you laugh at yourself and laugh when others who are laughing at you, do you laugh with them? You've got a good case, then, to say you're a spiritual being. A good case. Now, are there steps to achieving a personal spiritual contentment, such as the 12 steps to spiritual contentment, or the 7 steps for spiritual enlightenment, or the 5 steps to soul refreshment? Any indication that there are such programs defeats the whole point of spirituality. However, if you ask me if there are things you may do to create the potentiality for being a spiritual person, for being spiritually content, my answer is a very loud yes. I'm hesitant, I really am, to list or describe those steps because of our tendency to overly organize. If I use the word first, then I've begun the systematizing of that potentiality. And once you systematize it, it creates a limitation. Whatever you do, keep it simple. You don't need incense, perfumed water, scented candles, mood music, black lights, or gyrating globes. These create a false atmosphere, Hollywoodish in its nature. It becomes a stage then. Stages are for acting. The act becomes the focus. There's an old story, it's been around for centuries, about 2 philosophers out for a walk. And it offers a wonderful illustration. I would like to share that with you. One philosopher was an Eastern philosopher, and the other was a Western philosopher, of course. The two came upon a single wild flower along the path in which they were walking. Both stopped and looked at the little flower. The Western philosopher bent over and picked it. The Eastern philosopher said, "Well, I would have left it, and that way we could have admired it on our return trip." If you are admiring a beautiful sunset, or a beautiful sunrise, or a full moon, or looking at a lovely rose, and you say, "Isn't that beautiful?" You've destroyed the whole thing. You've picked the flower along the path. You've broken the magic. You destroyed the moment of a potential spiritual experience. American poet Ralph Waldo Emerson put it this way: what lies behind you and what lies in front of you pales in comparison to what lies inside of you. Looking at each thing on your walk through life, each animate and inanimate thing as something unique. Let it become part of the inner you. No two stones are exactly alike any more than any two individuals are exactly alike, or even so-called identical twins. As you become involved in the uniqueness of that which is around you, all judgment fades away. The tendency to say something is good or beautiful or ugly will not enter your thought of pattern, the patterns of your thought. It will just be suspended in its moment of time, beautiful, wondrous, and magical. And as you wake each morning and before getting out of bed, stop and think about the wonder that is your physical body. Take a few minutes. It won't hurt. It really is unique, isn't it? The very dust of the stars helped make that physical being. The very dust of the stars. The air, the molecules, as I have said before, exhausted, exhaled by all those who went before you, are part of you. Accept that reverence. German philosopher George Hegel reminds us that nature is spiritual, and spirituality is nothing less than nature fully developed in us. As such, spirituality has everything to do with passion for life. It embraces love and trust, reverence and wisdom. Spirituality is the specific, thoughtful love of life, an expression of the self, all-embracing. Yet we must realize spirituality is not a matter of beliefs. It's a way of viewing the world, interacting with all living and non-living things, particularly the way we interact with each other, with respect and dignity. Yes. So many think the idea of spirituality is strange because it requires action as a part of its very essence. It is a mode of appreciation, of doing as well as being, of thinking and feeling. This proactive experience demands an understanding as a prerequisite of the spiritual person. Unfortunately, we tend to make things more difficult than they are. You know the old story. Our approach to spiritual contentment is basically no different. We tend to make it more complicated than it really is by creating endless rituals to ensure it, none of which are necessary. Spirituality is self-actualizing in that it comes into being by being believed in, by doing that which generates spiritual contentment. Adopt a framework of experiencing that allows all sorts of potentialities that open up for you. Those potentialities that you may not have been aware even existed. In previous talks, I've discussed love and trust. I want now to add reverence. And when combined with love and trust, we have the very essence of spirituality, which then gives us our passion with the power to transform our lives and the world. And it's wonderful, absolutely wonderful. Just as it requires love and trust, spirituality requires reverence. It complements love and trust. And it is the recognition that one must respectfully recognize the divine in others as well as in the natural world. It's important to note that spirituality is not a self-dismissive or self-abandoning leap toward a cosmic connection. It begins with the concrete sense of selfhood and transcends the mundane. I'd like to conclude with a statement by Houston Smith. When man reverses his gaze from upward and looks inward, his value imagery likewise transpires. It turns over. Within man, the best lies the deepest. It is basic, fundamental, the ground of his being. All the levels of reality are within man. For microcosm mirrors microcosm, man mirrors infinite. And I add, man does all of this because he is a spiritual being. Namaste.